Good night, guys. Thanks for rescheduling. I appreciate that effort. Tonight I want to just basically go through any issues persons are having, and obviously we want to go through the main topic of what we're here to discuss tonight, which is the last webinar that we will then discuss about reverse dieting, right? Reverse dieting is a process that takes you off a intense calorie restriction back into having maintenance calories, which is what will allow you to basically go back into a position where you will maintain the weight that you're at rather than still losing weight, or worst case, rather than gaining back any weight, right? So yeah, reverse dieting, essentially what happens is we put you all in a calorie restriction. Most of you are in more deficit than some. But essentially what happens to the body, what happens to body mass when it's in a restriction, it generally reduces, right? Now, based upon the type of macronutrients you have, the reduction can be particular. For example, if you have more protein within a calorie restriction, it's likely that you would retain more muscle and not get what we call skinny and get lean. Whereas persons who tend to have just carbohydrates in a deficit tend to lose lean mass, which is muscle. We've seen that anecdotally, and I know there's some evidence to suggest that as well. So what's going to happen now when you now start to reintroduce more calories? The weight loss process will slow. For some, you will plateau back to a weight that you are now. But what reverse dieting will certainly not do, if it's done properly, will allow you to gain back any of the weight. One of the things you need to understand as well, there's a bit of science to it that I want to explain. If you just general conversation, if you go back to what you were doing before, you're going to gain back all the weight. All right? This is just how, what got you there in the first place is going to take you back there if you go back to it. So that's why this is all about behavioral modification and lifestyle change, rather than it being about a diet. It's understanding the tools that we've used and why we've used them and when we've used them and how to use them, and to be able to repeat the use of them when in your own time, right? So this is supposed to be a purely educational process rather than us just getting you to lose weight. So as I said, reintroducing calories drastically will cause you to regain weight. That's why we use reverse dieting, where we slowly reintroduce calories. The easiest way for most of you to do it, based upon what we've been doing here, is to reverse the processes that I've put in place already. So for example, if you are in the green group and leveraging, where you are fasting on the weekend, you'd come back first to just green group, which is just eating one meal a day, and then you would remove the macros and you would mix the calories. You would then potentially come down from that one meal a day to a 4-hour window of eating. Then you would move from a 4-hour eating down to a 6-hour of eating. Then you potentially may get rid of all the window and eat whenever you want. However, for some of you, you may find that because of that structure, which allows you to not consume calories out of a certain window, you potentially may eat too much calories and regain body mass. So I find personally fasting works because it just structures for you to reduce automatically a meal, right? That's generally why it works well. So counting calories is a way that we can also do it, which is the more difficult undulating process to go with, whereas we will then count all the calories we are taking in for a day, and we will increase it something like about 50 calories per week over, say, a 10-week period to slowly bring back up our calories without gaining weight. Those of you who have been off carbs, if you start to reintroduce carbs regularly into all your meals, your muscles will start to hold on back to all those carbs, and you will weight gain. You won't necessarily fat gain, you will weight gain, because muscles are like shopping bags. They hold stuff, right? They hold toxicity and they hold weight. They hold water, they hold a lot of stuff. So carbohydrates is one of them, which is known as glycogen, and it holds that. So, bottom line, okay, so we want to reverse diet at around about 50 calories a week, right? If we're planning on going back to eating regularly in terms of meal timing, not meal type. If you're going to go back to regularly in terms of meal type, right, you will likely to gain weight. If you go back to, especially to a typical Jamaican style of eating, you will gain back all the weight. That is why I then suggest you have, if you're going to use Jamaican style of eating, you have to have systems in place. That's why I always recommend to people, if you're going to go Jamaican, just the easiest way to avoid a lot of stuff that's not necessarily the best is to avoid the carbs and eat the protein. Right? But the Jamaican diet typically is not good at all for weight loss, right? Or for fat loss, or for maintaining weight for that matter. So now it's a very highly processed diet with a lot of processed foods in it. So yeah, about 50 calories per week. But as I said, I try to make it easier for you guys by using fasting processes in terms of the duration and how much meals you have, because it simplifies the process. So you can reverse that process by just going backwards. And I would suggest that most people just go backwards to eating within a 6-hour window or 8-hour window. And you can move that window around socially. So if you have somewhere to go, you know, you then would skip, because what's going to happen is the meals are going to build back up again. And then if you have a calorie surplus, which is eating more than your body mass needs, you're going to gain weight. All right. So, I mean, I would highly recommend personally for you guys to stick to a systematic version of eating where it's you're using a system to eat and it's not out of impulse. Because intuitive eating, if you are not strict on what you eat intuitively, you will also gain weight. So that's why I am a big fan of using systems and structures in order to have strategic outcomes. No, you would move it, you would move it probably at 4 times the pace that you moved it before. So on average, most of you would have moved every 10 days or every 20 days. You could move then, you would move like say then, instead of every 10 days, you'd move every uh, month, every 4 weeks, right? So we'd go, I mean, wouldn't say a full 40 days. We'd say about 4 weeks is when you would move systems, 3 to 4 weeks, right? You would move those structures, all right? But as I said, the aim is not to go. The aim is not to go back to eating whatever you want, whenever you want. That should never be what it is, because that was what caused weight gain in the first place. Let me just look back here if I'm missing anything. Boom, 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 boom. So in terms of challenge ends, we have until the 12th of April. So today, we're supposed to have a checkpoint on Friday, right? So if you aim to continue weight loss, use the systems that you've learned. Use them and manipulate them to help you get what you want, right? That's what I strongly recommend, using those systems. They will get you your results, and you just move backwards and forwards between them, right? It's an easy way, and it's a structured way. I'm not saying it's the only way, because there's many other ways to do it, but I find with working with thousands of people, it's the most straightforward way to do it, because most people don't have time to count calories, or most people aren't interested enough to really count calories, though it's effective. But people want to have I find people operate better with a system, a structure that really gives you the do's and don'ts, and you become accustomed to it, and then you will get the results from that. All right. Well, it seems like you're the only one here, Angela. I'm gonna come back again on Friday, obviously. So I think we'll check back in on Friday. Just wanted to just touch base on this reverse dieting. On Friday, we're here at 6 p.m. All right, 6 p.m. on Friday. All right. So round table. Make sure you upload all images, etc. And we'll be back here. Yes. Ultimately, calorie deficit and healthy eating. That's the guideline. I mean, there's a book by Professor, what's his name again? I'm going to tell you now, I'll give you guys some information here. I'll put it in the group. His book is called Lifespan. It's by a fella called, so it helps to read around this topic area, because what it will help you to do is, David Sinclair, that's it, Professor David Sinclair. So this book I'm going to share with you guys inside the group. It's a good book to read around this. So as you mentioned, ultimately, we're going for a calorie deficit and healthy eating. And it is great to go for a calorie deficit indefinitely. Unless you were decided that you wanted to go on a process of building muscle, I would definitely recommend that. So I mean, I'm going to actually put that inside there, Angela, what you said. I think that's a great statement that you made there, which is ultimately, I'm just going to write it out here, calorie deficit. All right, that's a very good synopsis of the situation. Calorie deficit and healthy eating. That's the solution to maintaining weight and managing weight effectively, right? My weight is standstill, but today when my body fat was checked, I am now at the lean section of the chart. Yeah. When you're carrying enough muscle, you won't lose you can't really judge the scale, right? Because muscle is heavy and muscle stores. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't worry if you're losing inches and you're moving in body fat percentage. I wouldn't worry so much about the weight, unless for performance reasons like running or something like that, you wanted to drop weight. So I mean, like athletes, certain athletes that I work with, we focus on weight, like a fighter, because they want to get into a particular weight class. Like, I mean, for me right now, I'm running, and the lighter I get, the faster I'm able to run. So, but if you're carrying substantial muscle and you're getting the outcomes that you want in terms of your appearance and how you fit in your clothing, then I wouldn't worry about the weight so much. Is it okay to continue fasting as a lifestyle? Intermittently, yes. I wouldn't, for females as well, I wouldn't recommend prolonged fasting because your mechanism is totally different. Except, for females, I don't recommend prolonged fasting for too long, right? For females, because what will end up happening, your hormones will be totally gone in the direction that we don't want them to go if it's prolonged. So what would for most females in terms of systematic eating, I would say prioritize protein to be lean, keep active, right? And for a lifestyle reason, stay low carb. For lifestyle, I would say stay low carb. Once you stay low carb, you stay out a lot of potential issues. I'm not saying carbohydrates are bad. What you just find is when you stay low carb, a lot of stuff that you would have probably consumed that would have carried more fats and carb, ultimately you wouldn't consume them because they're out of the system of how you're eating. As I said, humans perform better when they're using systems, and prolonged fasting for females, I don't recommend it. Intermittently, so doing this process once every 4 months, I would say that's substantial. Yeah, I would say that's substantial. All right, so guys, remember I'm going to come back here on Friday at 4 p.m. All right, so I will touch bases with you guys again. Yeah, in the meantime, make sure you get everything uploaded by Friday so I can then effectively guide people for the last part of the challenge. And I will touch on this topic again about reverse dieting and make sure everybody's on the right track to moving forward with their life and retaining the results that they have, and living life able to maintain your weight where your weight is not a problem for you anymore. It's just knowing what systems to use and when. All right, guys.